Hello and welcome to the Run the Day podcast. I'm your host, Nick Symmonds. With me, as always, is my co-host, Kamala. How are you, Cam?
I'm doing good. Welcome to the show. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in each week. We try to get you the best guests we can get, and this one is one we've been saving. This is a great friend of mine. It's Aisha Praught-Leer, and she was one of our very early on athletes. She was actually in Eugene when we launched Run Gum and helped us launch the brand. We always had her in our back pocket. I said, when we have a big enough audience, that's when we call in Aisha.
Yep.
And we are there now. What episode is this?
We are on 43.
43.
Yeah.
Well, it's about time we have Aisha on. She is such an incredible woman. What did you think of
amazing.
this interview?
Just remarkable. You know, everything she's been through in her career. She is currently changing. It's not paces. I don't know.
You would call distances or events. Yeah.
Okay. Changing that. She just has remarkable talent.
Yeah, she does.
And at the same time, she is building a nonprofit in Jamaica and doing all those other things. It's so amazing.
I call her a multifaceted person because she has a degree in geology. She's passionate about her husband and her family life, her dog. She's able to go up to 9,000 feet and focus single-mindedly on training and create the nonprofit. She just has so many aspects to her character that make her this amazing woman.
Yeah.
And we dig into a lot of those facets in this interview. What maybe surprised you about Aisha and that you maybe didn't know about her before this?
I mean, I didn't know that she was a geology major at all. That's so cool. And the way that she's able to still use it as she's running with her teammates. And I think the way she handled her transition from, her team here in Eugene and feeling that gut instinct that she needed to go to Colorado, and now she's had so much success.
She's not afraid to bet on herself, whether it was, saying goodbye to geology to focus on pro running or saying goodbye to the OTC Nike group that was working so well for her to try something new and catapult her to the next level.
Yep.
She is definitely confident. She's not afraid to take chances, and it's paying dividends for her right now.
Huge.
Let's dig into what makes her so great. Without further ado, it's Aisha Praught-Leer. Here she is coming to us live from Crested Butte, Colorado, elevation 9,000 feet. Wow. Aisha Praught-Leer, how are you?
Hey, I'm barely breathing, guys.
I know, 9,000 feet. Is there any oxygen up there?
Enough to make you feel pretty bad most days.
You're a masochist. You spend half your year at altitude, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, my home is maybe 5,600, and then that's not enough. So you got to come up a little higher for many months of the year.
So if you were to take all 12 months, obviously when you're racing or in Europe, you're at sea level. Are you at altitude above 5,000 feet, 9 months out of the year?
Oh, at least.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah,
but masochistic.
I mean, I'm probably only down at sea level maybe a month out of the year.
Wild.
We try to stay up as long as we can. Yeah. I'm an altitude creature now.
I remember just feeling like I was like you're training 24/7. Like when you're at altitude, it's like even when you're sleeping, you're training because you're building so many red blood cells. That's kind of the allure to you?
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like when you train at sea level, you have to work so hard, and it just wears and tears on my body. But as you say, when you're training all the time, you can take it a little gentler on my aging.
You don't have to torque as hard to get the same
body.
Yeah. You're still pretty
totally
young.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you know why I used to
just barely.
You know why Willie and I and the Jefferson boys used to whine about being so old, because you're almost 30, right?
Yeah, don't say that, but yes.
You just say, hey, you're in your 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
Give or take, she's in her 20s.
Yeah. And they say 30s is the new 20s. So once you hit 30, it's like you're still in your 20s.
Well, for distance runners especially distance runner women, like they get this old lady strength in their 30s that's like unbeatable.
34,
I'm
peaking.
pretty excited about it.
I love it.
Yeah.
How has training been going?
It's been going well. It's a little different this year because I'm sure everybody's talking about how late Worlds are.
It's stupid late.
So
just for everyone's.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, for everyone's.
It's kind of crazy. We're used to being ready, like fit as a fiddle, top of the game in August, and now we're looking at first week of October.
That's wild.
Wow.
It's been a little different this year. I've hit my highest mileage of my life for 4 straight weeks.
Which is
here in Crested Butte. Well, I had one 7-day stretch where I ran 95 miles.
Wow.
Yikes.
And that is bananas.
Is that like a Sunday to Saturday with a couple long runs?
It was like a Wednesday to Wednesday. So I don't really know if you can count it like that. But
you can.
secret. I don't keep a training log. I never have. I never will.
I like that
Wow, I
about
know
you.
your secrets.
Yeah, I like that.
So I
Too
was
much
only
info.
told it was too much info. I
Yeah.
don't need that much data, but it was kind of like, hey, Aisha, how you feeling today? Oh, no, adequately tired.
Well, you've always
No,
been
you're
good
in.
you've been good about listening to your body. Like you're very communicative. I remember when you were working with Ro, you'd say, "This is bothering me, and I feel good here." And you are very good at listening to your body, which most athletes aren't. And I think the ones that are more in tune with their body and are more able to communicate how they're feeling, sometimes there's just too much data. Like you just don't need it. You're like, I just feel it out.
Yeah.
And at 30, or excuse me, I don't mean to cheat you out of your 20s. At 29, you've been doing
Good
this long.
God.
You've been doing this long enough that you just don't need that data.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Don't need to get bogged down.
Were you able to do that through the transition of coaches? So for those listeners who don't know, Fred, we call her Fred.
She happens to be one of your close
yeah,
friends.
Yeah. Aisha and I ran together at OTC, and we both went through a rough transition in that I left Nike and OTC to go run for Brooks, and I know how hard that transition can be. Was it difficult for you leaving OTC and Nike and finding a new training camp?
Yes and no. It was really difficult because for me, nothing was really wrong. I was having a great time at OTC and there was so much good that was happening there, but I felt like I needed a change. So what was difficult was explaining to people why I was leaving a really coveted situation to do something else.
That was working.
It's
not like it was broken.
Yeah, like totally. I PR'd every year of my career. But I was just really looking for a change. So that was the first thing that was hard. And two, I didn't really have that something else lined up. I just knew that
things were going to change.
Things were going to change. And for mine and Willie's life, we needed to do something else. And so finding that next step was a little tricky. And I didn't have a next sponsor lined up.
That's scary. I mean, so many unknowns.
Scary.
Yeah. Thinking about how you're going to get paid, how you're going to make ends meet.
It's where you're even going to live. Yeah, all of the variables were up in the air.
Oh. Exactly. And to my earlier suggestion, I don't keep a training log. So in talking with new coaches, they would ask like, so what was your training like? And I'm like,
I wish I could share something with you.
I wish I could tell you, but I know we did 4, 3, 2, 1
oh my gosh.
With some rest, and like we would do Ks sometimes. So like those were all challenges, but honestly, it went as well as I could have asked for. Like the transition to deciding to move to Boulder was really quick and easy. Like I'm pretty intuitive, and I knew from my first phone call with Joe Bosshard that like this is the move. But we did move to one of the most expensive cities in the US with me having zero income, and luckily we'd been smart and had saved money and could afford to do that. But it was like every month seeing the bank account get lower and lower and being like, oh my God, I really need to get a sponsor. Like, I really hope this works out, or else I just totally screwed us. But after I signed with UA in March, it was like, this is perfect.
Kind of all the pieces start to fall into place. And when we talk about, pro athletes, we've had multiple pros on this thing that all say it takes a village. You have to put all the pieces in place, and it's the sponsor, it's the coach, it's the town, it's the family, it's everything that has to come into place. And sometimes it's kind of like one-stop shop, like with OTC. You get the Nike contract, you get Eugene, the community, you get Roland. But other times, and probably more often than not, you have to do what Fred did, what Aisha did here, and you have to piece it all together. It's impressive to me, because I knew the backstory that they're not telling you, that they loaded up a U-Haul and got John Jefferson as a tag-in driver, and they just started driving west. I mean, it truly is.
So cool.
It's the American dream from a running standpoint. Just I know where I want to train.
Yeah.
I know who I want to do it with, and I'm just going to go figure it out. It's like jumping right into the deep end and learning to swim, while you're there. So Fred, I remember hearing stories from the road as you guys were making this trip, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared for you guys, but you really put it together, and I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. It was difficult. Another thing that I learned sort of in that transition is when you leave a group setting to sort of a not group setting. I mean, we definitely have we have a training group, but it's not like funded by a brand specifically. So I realized how many things were sort of put in place for me when I was at OTC, you know, having medical and massage and physio and altitude camps and
it was all taken care of for
travel.
you.
It was all taken care of. And then I almost had to relearn how to be a professional on my own, making my own appointments. And as silly as that sounds, it's just something that you don't really think about. There are way more variables when you're sort of trying to be a pioneer and doing something on your own. So yeah, that was a big adjustment.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you weren't that passionate about social media when you were here in Eugene, when you were training with OTC. And I don't know if it's just me taking more notice as somebody who's on social more myself, but your social media has gotten really, really good. What is that? Is that just me all of a sudden paying attention, or are you really putting more effort into it?
No, I'm definitely putting more effort into it. I still have a sort of conflicted mindset about it. When I was at OTC, I was sort of like just entering the social media age. You know, I got Instagram in 2012, right after I graduated college, and it's kind of like, well, you know, what is this thing? It's a way to share photos with my friends. Cool. Yeah. And Ro would always say, you know, just shut up and run fast.
It's a huge distraction. It's a waste of time. You know, stop talking about everything on the internet. Yeah.
You know, don't talk about it, be about it. And that was really important for me at the time. And the way I viewed social media was like, you know, I just really don't think it's for me. Like I am very social, but I am
private also,
quite naturally introverted. Yeah. So in my mind, I'm like, who wants to see what I'm doing? This is really silly. And then sort of in my transition, I'd sort of let the social media world wash, you know, in front of me. And then I realized like, this is actually this is where marketing is going. This is where sponsorship is going, is like engaging with people. And not only that from a sort of perspective of your job, but also you can really start engaging in relationships that can be really rewarding, and it can provide a bigger platform to sort of do things that I've always wanted to do, but I didn't really see social media that way. And I remember when I moved to Boulder, I was on a second run with Emma and another runner in town, Sarah Sutherland, and now Masters. And we were sort of talking about social media of like, this is actually super important for your job. If it makes you feel better to think about it as your job, do that. Say, I'm going to post X amount of times per week and then abide by a schedule, and maybe you'll grow to love it. So I had to take that perspective, like, this is my job. I have to do it. I'm going to do it. And then I sort of grew to love it and realized that like it doesn't have to be this like perfectly packaged branded image of this is what it takes to be an athlete. I can just be myself and use my own personal voice, and that can draw people toward what I'm doing and bring people along on what is, as you said, takes a village. It's a huge undertaking to try to be one of the best in the world. And it's grown into more of like a greater support network. And I really enjoy it now.
I think when you're putting out content that is authentic and it's something that you actually enjoy, it makes it a lot easier, you know, and I've had to find that in my own journey with social media. When I'm posting about stuff that I don't care about, it's a chore, and I don't like talking about it. I don't like responding to the comments. But if I'm posting stuff that I'm excited about and other people are excited about, it's really easy to just talk about stuff I'm excited about, you know? So I think it's that authenticity that not only carries your brand into places that you want to take it, but it gives you the positive feedback loop that allows it to continue to grow.
It's so true.
Frederick, what is going to be your season opener? And do you have that on the schedule yet?
Okay. Apparently you're not paying attention to me, Nick, because last week I ran a 5K.
On the roads or on the track?
At Oxy.
Oh, shoot, I did. I'm not paying attention. What the hell? No, I sent you congrats. I sent you congrats, but you're running the 1500 now.
Yeah,
So you specifically said I'm running the 1500, so I'm not even counting that. That was just a rust buster, doesn't count.
Yeah.
I pay attention.
Just like a momentary lobotomy brain situation there.
I did send you a congrats.
He did get engaged last week. So
yeah, I had a couple of things on my plate last week.
Yeah. You know what? I forgive you. So as long as I'm invited to the wedding, I'll be there. Well,
I mean, I drunkenly stumbled around yours. So it would be pretty offensive if you didn't do the same for mine.
Yeah, I promise to drink too much. It'll be great.
So 5Ks aside, when are you going to open up in the event that you've decided to focus on this year?
Yes. So I'm running the 1500, and very soon I get to fly to Nashville on Friday and race on Saturday at the Music City Distance Carnival.
I love that meet. That's the one that launched my pro career, actually. It's very intimate, very small, but really fun. And
cool.
Bring needles. That, unless they've redone their track, that is the hardest track I've ever run on.
Really?
Yeah. Unless they've redone it. That thing was baked. I mean, it was asphalt.
Cool.
But it is very fast. Yeah, exactly. For our listeners, I'm sure everybody already knows this, but you are primarily a steeplechaser, but you can run you have insane range everywhere. You can run a heck of a 15. You just set the national record in the 5K. Tell us more about why this year you've decided to focus on the 15 as opposed to the steeplechase.
Yeah. I have been surprising myself with my sort of 1500-meter skills over the years. And I started in track as a miler on the distance side. I actually started in track as a sprinter, but that's a longer story. And the mile is truly my first love. And I kind of fell into the steeplechase in college. And when I turned pro, I'd always talked to my college coach and my high school coaches and people who have known my running from the onset that at some point in my career, I will move down. People usually move up as they age, but I'd always said, like, 1 year, I'm going to move down to 1500 and see how it goes. And I really had set my sights on 2021. Eugene World Championships, how cool would it be if I started experimenting in the 1500 for that? But then it was, I think, a couple of things kind of tipped the scales to suggest that we start sooner. One, last year in prep for Commonwealth Games, where I was running the steeple, we decided, like, let's do a couple indoor races, see if we can qualify for indoor worlds in the 3K. And, just like use that as training along the way. And ran a 3K at Melrose. That went great. So we decided to run a 1500 the next weekend in Boston. And we weren't specifically training for the 1500, but I ran 4:04 and in a really good field. And that's my flat out personal best. And we were kind of surprised. And it was this really difficult decision of, do I line up for the 3K flat or the 1500 at World Indoors in Birmingham last year? It's like, so many pros and cons. And we decided that 15 would be higher risk, higher reward. I've never had to run 1500 rounds at the top level, but let's give it a go. And I wound up getting 6th at World Indoors in like a just crazy, insane deep field with Sifan Hassan, Dibaba, Laura Muir, Shelby Houlihan, Winnie Chibet, Beatrice Chepkoech, Colleen Quigley, like everybody that, was really running strong indoor was there. And I thought, like, oh, that's interesting. And then didn't really put
hey, maybe I'm really good at this.
like this is kind of cool. It hurts a lot, but this is working. And then I really think that the second piece was our group is growing, and we've added Corey McGee, who is a through and through 1500 meter specialist. And just sort of the training that we'd been doing, if we are starting to touch that 1500 pace, I could feel in my body, and Joe could see that, like, it is a very smooth, efficient pace for me to be running. Physiologically, I just like look a little bit better when I'm running a 65 versus a 72, 1500 pace and steeple pace, goal time paces. And So we actually sat down during indoors before Millrose and had like a 2-hour talk. Joe seemed to me to be very nervous to broach the subject with me, of, hey, like, you are running really well in the steeple. If we decide to go down that track, I know you're going to run really fast this year. But I kind of have this gut feeling that we should maybe explore the 15, because I think it could be pretty good. And, he name dropped some, pretty infamous USA women who have gone 15 or, steeple down to 15 and said, like, look at how well it's gone for these people. And I think, you have a similar skill set. I really am open to seeing what you think about trying it this year as opposed to later. And I was surprised. I did not see that conversation coming, and was immediately, just like gut feeling like, hell yes.
Something new,
awesome.
Something, mix it up a little bit. Yeah.
Mix it up. And like, with Worlds being so late this year, we can really experiment. And, the steeple's always going to be there. So if I want to come back for the Olympic year, I can do that. But this could be, even bigger and better. But, we'll see.
It's exciting, and it is, one of those things where it's a world year, so there's some pressure in the sense that you want to perform, but it's not an Olympic year. I'm assuming you're coming back to the steeple next year.
To be determined. If I, for whatever reason, am just like lighting shit on fire in the 1500, then
you always light shit on fire. If
then we'll see. But it will be a discussion for after the season.
You know what you got, Fred? You got a problem, which I never had. You're too good at too many events.
Right.
Yeah, I was a one-trick pony. I did one thing. I knew what I was running.
Yep.
You're just too darn good at too many events. Is there an opportunity in the 2020 schedule to run multiple events?
Honestly, I haven't looked at it yet. I know this year I was kind of thinking that I would try 5K 15, but unfortunately they're on the same days. So at least I have the Olympic qualifier for the 5K. So potentially in 2020, I would have the opportunity to pick sort of 2 out of the 3 if the schedule allowed.
Well, that's the other thing I love about her. I think the schedule's already out and she's not looked at it. She doesn't care. She's focused on what she needs to do today. She's focused on this week. She's focused on the next race. Aisha has never been one to kind of float around with her head in the clouds. You're a very pragmatic person, Aisha.
Oh, thanks, Nick. I try to be.
It's because she's a nerd. She's a geologist. Did you know this?
No.
She's got a degree in geology, right?
Yeah.
She's
You're
a
just
nerd.
like exposing my closet no-show.
Do you miss it? Do you miss that side? As somebody who has so many facets to her personality, do you miss having all those different outlets? And do you find it annoying that you have to be so focused and living this, life in a cabin to 9,000 feet?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. Like I do have a lot swirling around in my mind, but one of my skills is this like freakish ability to do one thing and be completely comfortable with that. I love that I can be running in Crested Butte or wherever in the world and can point out some weathering patterns of the mountains to my my training partners and explain what a butte is, and just
the difference between granite and some other type of rock, limestone.
Yeah, so that's all I've got going on in my geology brain. But in another life I would be a professor or something, but that's just not going to happen. And now I just read a lot of books and run a lot of miles. So
it's a good life.
It's a good life. There's not enough oxygen up here to do any more than that. So that's all my brain can handle.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse or fast forward through this awesome time in your life. But what do you see yourself doing after your retirement?
That is a really hard question.
It's one that athletes don't like to think about that much when they're in the middle of their career.
I mean, yeah, it's tough. I honestly thought that I was going to retire when I was graduating college. I thought I was going to retire after 2016 and then go back to school, get a PhD in micropaleontology and become a professor. Like that was like, this is what I was going to do. But then now I'm still running and I
Running
want to run
well.
for air.
Yeah.
Yeah, running better than ever. And now I'm thinking like, shoot, how long can I prolong this? Like this is a pretty good gig. But since half of my knowledge has melted away in science, I start thinking about, what should I do? I'm really thinking about sort of like non-for-profit work. I just don't really know.
And
I
you don't have to
can't
figure it
give you
out
a
today
defined
either.
answer. I don't have to figure it
You
out.
also have the
But
luxury of running for an incredible team Jamaica, where you could conceivably run for another 10 years, move up in distance, try different
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, it's not the same, cutthroat team that USA is, where you have to make the team at
totally.
this day where you can get eliminated in a second and lose all your sponsorships in one race. You have the support of an
Yes.
entire nation behind you. I remember
Yes.
that was a tough decision for you as well, but I have to think you're really pleased with that decision. I know from an outside
Oh,
observer,
totally.
it's just the best thing that I think you could ever have done. You have this brand now as this Jamaican.
Yeah.
Under Armour's behind you, Jamaica's behind you. You're doing so much for the island. You're doing so much for that community. It just seems like it really worked out well for you.
Yeah, I would make the choice every time. It's been such a gift to be able to really develop. I think from an athletic perspective, not having the intense pressure of having, the
The trials
USA
process,
trial
yeah, it's
every
horrible.
year. It's super grueling. And like my husband has gone almost completely gray. And it's just like the
Dealing
stress.
with it, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like the stress of the one day situation, I think provides for choosing a great team. But I was sort of behind my peers, and I think you might understand this coming from you came from D3 and I came from more of an up and coming Division 1 program where when I went to OTC, I got my butt kicked in and day out for a couple of years until I could sort of find my footing. I needed a little bit of time to be able to become world class, and having Jamaica behind that, sort of that long term vision of, we're on board to help you develop, and then when I start winning medals, it's like
Mm-hmm.
pandemonium.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's difficult to see on a daily basis the impact that I have because I live and train in the U.S. But then when I go to Jamaica, it's like, oh man, like I
They're
am making a direct
they are paying
impact.
attention.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
you
Yeah,
are
they're
you are
absolutely paying attention.
you are so celebrated on the island. I remember, I mean, was it the Commonwealth Games? People were just going insane. And
Going insane.
yeah, you really are one of them, and they've adopted you and made you one of their own, and rightfully so. I mean,
Mhm.
there's so few distance runners coming off the island, and for you to be able to go and inspire the next generation of young girls and young boys, just try events that they've never tried before. It's really
Yeah.
powerful, and I can see just how much they appreciate you.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been awesome. I this year was able to go down. I'm slowly in the process of creating a foundation that sort of does just that, that can sort of inspire and then go a step further to try to create opportunities for young distance runners, particularly females on the island, because the talent is there. Um, but sometimes it's hard to see yourself succeeding when the path hasn't necessarily been cleared for you, or there isn't necessarily representation of somebody who looks like you sort of doing what you aim to do. So I think from two levels, if people can see me achieving, um, then that plants the seed of perhaps I could do that too. And then if I can sort of create relationships person to person and spend time on the island with these girls who are incredibly talented and running similar times that I ran in high school and sort of like help foster that development, then like even better. And that gives me such a huge sense of purpose. And it's been my time down with the girls at Hydel High was awesome. Like they train their butts off, and one of the girls is going to run at A&M next year. And it's just been really cool to see sort of the awakening of the idea that there are more paths to success. So it's really
cool.
rewarding.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Remarkable.
Fred, man, you got a lot going on. It's hard. Like I love that you are so active on social, so that we can continue to follow all the different things that you've got going on.
Yep.
If people want to follow you, do you think Instagram's the best place, or are you active on multiple platforms?
I'm usually a grammer. That's where I am.
She's a grammer.
Instagram,
She does it for the
That
gram.
was good. I haven't heard
Yeah.
that one yet.
Yeah.
And you do have a lot of great food on there. Whenever I'm looking at your story, I'm like, oh, Aisha, they eat really well.
They eat so well.
Yeah.
So well.
Oh yeah.
How much of that is
Nick
Will and how much
remembers.
is that is you?
Well, here's the thing. I'm a little bit more efficient in the kitchen.
Yeah. Will's
I
not
can
known for
see
his
that.
efficiency in the kitchen.
No.
He does whip up
no.
like some pretty good dishes though.
He does. He's actually a very, very good cook, but I tend to get a little hangry, and I can be a little controlling in the kitchen. So it's usually me, but he does the dishes, so it works.
Yeah. Divisional
Teamwork.
labor.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah. Blue jobs, pink jobs, and purple
Pink-
jobs.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
So purple jobs you both do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Taking care of the
Like-
pup, is that a purple job?
That's a purple job.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Doing the laundry is a blue job.
Really interesting. It's a pink
Ah.
job in my house.
Look at Will.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I do the majority of the
man.
cooking. So
Oh,
I think
little
every
reverse.
little family's got to find their own division of labor.
Yep.
Totally.
Is it more based?
Totally.
Is it more based on what you guys like and dislike, or is it more based on
Yes.
skill
It's more
set?
based on
Yeah.
like and skill set. I am
Yeah.
like my clothes would just live between the washer and the dryer. They would never get folded. So
Yeah.
he's taken that
That's nice.
crusade.
You guys do
Yeah.
some mean laundry. As a guy who's forced myself to stay at your house many times, you guys do some mean laundry.
Yeah. I do miss the Eugene days. Our guest room was Nick's room and had a photo of him.
I literally said this is my room just so when I'm here, like I
Yeah.
can
So
stay here.
funny.
Okay, I want to ask you,
Yeah.
what's the thing you miss most and least about Eugene?
Oh my gosh. Least the rain.
Yeah.
That's kind of a no-brainer. I didn't realize that I was perhaps dabbling in the seasonal depression realm.
Yeah.
I just thought that I was tired for 4 months.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Colorado where it's
It's
really
sunny
sunny,
and
I
awesome,
felt like,
yeah.
I actually feel good
Yeah.
a lot of the time. But gosh, there are so many things I miss. I'm trying to think. I'm gonna have to give you 3.
'Kay.
One thing I miss, the Saturday market. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh.
We have a good Saturday market.
Good one.
Oh, it's the best. Like
The
you know,
produce, so
the
good.
produce, everything grows there. Then you just got to circle around and just see what's going on in the drum circle.
Yeah, if you like farm to
just
table,
for
like
good-
we're surrounded
yeah.
by some pretty good farms.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the food is just
Yeah.
something that I miss. Number 2, tied to that, seafood. I miss
Yeah.
the
Fisherman's
the
market.
salmon.
Yeah.
I miss Fisherman's Market. I miss getting the catch of the day from Symmonds.
Mm-hmm.
He has quite a few now. Catch
Yeah.
of the day.
I gotten better.
Seriously. Yeah, I really need some salmon. If you could deliver that, that'd be great.
Anytime.
And 3, just the people.
Yeah, it's a good community.
It just is like the most tight-knit community. Sometimes it would be difficult if you're just like trying to get through the grocery store and not talk to anybody. But then when you don't, when you're not talking track with somebody who's just casually picking up their groceries, you're just like, oh, there's a little piece missing of just that like really intertwined community that's so special about Eugene.
I think those are 3 really good reasons you should come back and stay with us for a while.
Yeah.
Shame we don't
now
have
that
pre
I'm
this
talking
year.
about it.
Shame we don't have pre this year.
I know.
Are you going to race Prefontaine Classic?
Well, knock on wood. I'm trying to get in.
Okay.
I'll
make some calls.
15, so we'll see. Yeah, can you make a couple of calls? What's
Yeah.
Tom Jordan up to today?
It's at Stanford this year. We'd love to come and watch you run there. But you do need to
Yeah.
make a trip back to Eugene. The community misses you. You are just such a great ambassador for the sport, for this community and Jamaica and Under Armour. Is there anything that we
Yeah.
haven't plugged that we need to plug?
I think you're plugging it all. I'm feeling pretty
That's
good.
my specialty.
I'm walking a little taller.
That's my
Yeah.
specialty is plugging products and lifting people up. Fred, you are freaking awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for sharing a little bit of your training and your story with us. I can't wait to see what you're going to do in the 15. I feel like there is so much untapped potential there for you.
Thanks, Nick. Really appreciate it.
All right. Talk soon, Fred.
So much fun. See ya.
Bye. A big thank you to everyone for joining us on that episode. If you want to find out more or listen to other episodes, go to rungum.com/podcast. Also, please make sure to subscribe on iTunes or your preferred player. I'm Nick Symmonds, and you've been listening to the Run the Day podcast. Until next time.